Good afternoon and greetings from Pretoria, South Africa. My name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I'm the host of Talking to the Titans of Training. We've been in a bit of a short recess owing to work commitments, but we are back. And in fact, a bit of a double header. I've got two people that are joining us as guests this afternoon. I've got Millie and Lineo Rasekoala, and they represent a company called Whitehall Trading Projects. They'll be joining us very shortly from Johannesburg. If I could just get the housekeeping out of the way. I'd like to welcome you again, like I said, to episode 8 of Talking to the Titans of Training. The whole purpose and the objective of Talking to the Titans of Training is to showcase and to celebrate and to recognize the contribution of the stalwarts of the industry, and also to show appreciation and the life stories and the journeys of the innovators and the movers and shakers of the industry. And this is why we've got Millie and Lineo joining us this afternoon. Like I said, my name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I'm the host of Talking to the Titans of Training. I've been in the learning and development industry for the last 20 years. Of those 20 years, 16 as the independent contractor. So that's basically working for myself. And I really believe in the spirit of Talking to the Titans of Training that we need to have an abundance mindset in the industry, and we need to collaborate and not compete with one another in the industry. So that was the backstory and the motivation and the catalyst for starting this YouTube channel. So if I could just ask you if you could like my YouTube channel, subscribe if you enjoy the video later on, and of course let's spread the good news regarding the learning and development industry in South Africa. So at this point, it's a great privilege and a pleasure for me to welcome my guests all the way from Johannesburg, Millie and Lineo Rasekoala. They're from a company, Whitehall Trading Projects. They've been in the industry for, I think, well over 10 years. Ever since I've been in the industry, I've known them, although we haven't directly collaborated together. Millie, Lineo, welcome to episode 8 of Talking to the Titans of Training.
Wow.
Hi, Charles.
Hi, Charles. How are you?
Afternoon, good, and you?
We're fine, thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for your willingness to share your journey in the South African and also the African learning and development industry.
Thank you. No, thanks for the, just the honor of at least sharing a few minutes with you just to share our journey. We really do feel very honored by the invitation.
It's a great privilege, and it's good to have both of you. All the previous episodes of Talking to the Titans, we have singular guests, so this is it's a double whammy for me. And it's a unique experience as well. All right.
Thank you.
So thanks, Millie, Lineo. Perhaps we could just turn back the clock. Just give us a quick overview. How did it all start for the two of you? You are life partners. Been married, I believe, for 31 years, also business partners. So I want to get to a question later on where the unique challenges of, having a life and a business partner, are there any complications in that regard? But we'll get to that shortly. But how did it all start for the two of you in the training industry? Lineo, I know you've got a very strong IT background, also BSc in physics. Millie, MBA, currently busy with that, and good, experience and exposure in community development, entrepreneurial development. So where did it all start for the two of you? So the when, how, and were there any instrumental mentors and coaches? I know this is part of your company service offering right now, but were there any influential business leaders that guided you and supported you initially when you tried to break into this very competitive learning and development industry?
Okay, so I'll kick off because I'm I talk a lot anyway. But it's quite interesting because we arrived from Kenya in 2000. In fact, it was December 99. I was expecting my last born then, and so around February, March 2000, we said, you know what, we've been hearing so much about the skills gap in South Africa, and then we heard the concept of the National Skills Development Framework, and we tried to wrap our heads around it. But that actually led us to a coaching company. At the time, it was called Knowledge Universe. And we met an incredibly dynamic woman called Dr. Denise Bjorkman. I mean, she blew me away. I learned so much from her. And our journey began where we both, in fact, I did Denise's coaching course. And I got home and I said to Danelle, you know what, this is excellent, it's amazing, it's just new concepts, new ways of thinking. And I think that I was so in love with the whole concept of coaching as one of the ways of bridging the skills gap. And from there, he then also decided, you know what, I'm going to do this course as well. Now, as you said, he's come from a very IT background. He had literally just finished working with Microsoft at the time, and I think he just didn't want to be an employee anymore. And both of us were in that place of, we want to do something for ourselves. We want to have an impact. And so Denise was actually our first mentor in understanding what coaching was. And remember, at that time, coaching was very new to South Africa. I think people were still trying to understand what this coaching thing was. And so our journey started from there. For me, anyway, it was an opportunity to basically give something back to the country and participate in that whole idea of, you know, bridging the skills gap and ensuring that, you know, the previous inequities of the past would be bridged through effective skills development. And so Denise was my first mentor, and I still think of her. I haven't seen her for years, but I still think of her as the person that really opened my mind to the concept of thinking outside of the box and so on. And then I think that my second mentor is a gentleman called Rory van der Merwe. And Rory, when I met him, he was doing work for the Services Center, Johannesburg Career Center. And he came to vet our workplace because we had decided to take on learners. And again, he blew me away because now he was also blending his faith in God with the work that he does. And I thought, wow, so we can do both. You know, I don't have to be a Christian on Sundays and a business person the rest of the week. I can actually blend the two. And so that was for me the two critical mentors that have really had an impact into my life in the skills development arena. And like I said, I do talk about something.
Yeah.
I suppose added to that, we also did another course in terms of what we call business ministry. And so one of the other people there was one of those who I look as a mentor, how you blend your purpose with your work, family, and you streamline the two or the three, whatever it is. And that really helped me, I suppose, to be a little bit more focused in terms of the coaching and the mentoring, type of results that we have. Having said that, coaching and mentoring, I suppose, is a portion. And I think when we first started, we started off with our company at the time, year two. Even though we applied for accreditation, we accredited with Services Center, in some areas, most of our work was in the life and EQ as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a very fascinating start out, you know, the genesis of Danelle and Millie in the industry. Very coincidentally, when I started out in training in South Africa, also around about the same time, the year 2000, where I was redeployed to Municipal Training Centre in Pretoria. It was called Priamos. It was the old traffic college, and that was my first real gig and my exposure to training.
Okay.
In at the deep end. So, all right, so you've got good management experience, so you're going to be a management trainer. And at that point, I'd never trained a single day in my life. So I knew about planning and organizing and leading and controlling, but I didn't know anything about training. So they put me on a crash course and fast track. And one of the first external providers that, funny enough, I met up with was also Denise Bjorkman. Around about 2000, when I just started there, 2000, 2001. So I think it's, and also, you know, I haven't kept in contact with, I know that we are still connected on social media, but also probably haven't seen in about 20 years. And I guess she's still active in the industry. But yeah, it's good to see that she was a catalyst for a lot of us in the industry, and, you know, just almost being a trailblazer. Like you said, like coaching was in its infancy at that point. So I think, and this has become part of our business model, mentoring and coaching. It's part and parcel of the skills development equation. So that's very interesting. All right. So Danae, Millie, you started out then, turn of the century, been in the training industry for over 20 years now. So let's fast forward to 2020. So if you have to do some reflection at this point, what would you say are some of the career highlights? What would you say were some of the key milestones? I know Whitehall Trading Projects, you have accreditation with 3 seaters. So I think that in itself is a huge achievement. But over and above that, if the two of you could just reflect, what would you say over the last 20 years were some of your career highlights and career milestones?
I think when we started off, we did management development program. So we were coaching on a management development program with Vodacom. I think that for me was quite significant because we were there for about 4 years and we were involved in developing their middle to senior, some of the senior managers. And I think some of the results that we got, because remember, this is also, even that whole professional business coaching arena was still also relatively new. Some of the results we got out of that were great. So that was a significant milestone in terms of the coaching and the coaching profession, if you want to put it that way. Or, I think also then after that, when we started with Whitehall, we were looking more at the space of training and the accredited training, especially as within the country, it had grown in terms of the need for accredited training and the recognition for the requirement of accredited training. Yes. And we moved into that space, as well as, I think, combined it where required with the professional business coach. And so I think that was another significant milestone in the journey. What else would you like to add?
Okay, so for me, I think one of the biggest was, you know, we talk about companies being accredited and some of the challenges of getting accreditation with the sector education authorities and so on. And I must admit, one of the highlights for me was actually being able to work for one of the sector education authorities. It was such an incredible experience being on that side and seeing what some of the challenges are. I mean, there was a day where someone called me and said, "Ma'am, I'm waiting for my certificate." And I said, "What certificate?" "No, I did a course and I was told that it was accredited by your CETA." And I had to ask, okay, what was the qualification? What was the name of the provider? And I had to go and check. This provider is not accredited by our CETA, but you know what? I will check with the other CETAs as well. And only to discover that the provider was not accredited at all. Wow. And so this person has done a course with no certificate of note, and they had been told it was this CETA. So just seeing it from that side, seeing some of the frustrations and seeing some of the issues and challenges that the CETAs also face internally, that was, for me, quite a powerful education. So as a result of that, I'm very much a supporter of the CETAs. I don't throw my toys out of the cot. Sometimes, you know, you need to, but I'm very guarded about it. I know exactly when to throw my toys out of the cot and hold them accountable, and when to step back and say, you know what, I can imagine that you're probably looking for the file that I'm talking about, so I'm going to give you time. So that for me was a powerful experience. It was also being in the same room and being given information and training by someone like Mary Metcalf at the time, because I've always admired her, and just calling her my boss, was quite an awesome experience. I think the other powerful experience for me was working for an incubation company, one of the big incubation companies in South Africa, because for me, skills development, training, development of people, it doesn't matter whether you're developing entrepreneurs or you're developing individuals to enter the job market. The criteria is the same, the requirements are the same. And having worked for an incubator and managing a branch, having entrepreneurs coming with their issues and challenges, and being able to help them in their journey, for me, that was quite a significant experience. I feel so privileged to have had that experience, because some of those entrepreneurs now are so successful and could potentially be offering me a job. So it's actually quite an amazing experience. And then I think for me, the third one was having learners, because people don't quite understand learnerships. And there's so many companies that are so reluctant to have learners in their company because it's too much of a drain. I'm going to be molding them, and it's going to take too much of my time. But some of those learners, I mean, the two that I actually left at the CETA, when I resigned from the CETA, they were still learners then, and today some of them are regional managers. Wow. Some of one of them is in the ETQA department. So now when I'm looking to exit learners from a program, she is the one I contact to say, so what is your process? And and I never ever impose. I don't go back and say, oh, but I was your mentor, whatever. I deal with it purely as, you know what, I need my learners to be exited. What is the process? And I do it like that. So for me, that is I would say the three most powerful experiences in my journey.
So it seems like the ratio is 3 to 1. So for every one career highlight Lineo has, Millie has 3.
You know what? It's because I am so passionate about skills development. I eat it, I sleep it, I everything it. And I think he looks at things very much from, I'm a scientist, and he would dissect. I go in, everything blazing, and then maybe I'll step back. He will sit and think about it.
I suppose also sometimes, from a science perspective, you want to be able to measure the results. And sometimes those results don't come till much later.
And it's qualitative and not quantitative, which is the bane of any
I'm very much about qualitative.
Yes. But it seems like the two of you make a really good team, good chemistry. You complement one another, and I like what Lineo said earlier on about, just blending this passion with purpose. And also profit, because at the end of the day there is a commercial side to this business. We've got to pay our bills at the end of the day, but I think sometimes the fuel that drives a lot of us is that passion and that purpose. And Millie, I love what you said about that investment mindset and that kind of professional legacy that you're leaving behind, that indelible footprint about investing in the development of others and seeing them go on to big and better things. I think that's quite remarkable. So we all know what's happened in the last 6 months. We've had a very torrid time in the learning and development industry. Lost, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of jobs have been lost in the industry. How the two of you responded to this whole COVID-19 global pandemic? How's it impacted on your business model? The fact that you're still in business, I think, is a huge credit, because, like we said, a lot of us have gone out of business. So any advice that you could share in terms of building resilience, and just, just coping with this global pandemic, COVID-19. How have you responded?
So, my first degree was history and sociology, and I studied international relations. So World War II was one of the biggest modules that I studied. And if you look at that war, it was a global pandemic, so to speak.
Yes.
The whole world was affected by it. People lost families, they lost jobs, there was some psychological impacts, and this as almost a war on the scale of World War II.
Yeah.
And I believe that it will end. If we didn't think it will end, it will change the trajectory completely for me, from an emotional and psychological perspective. So I look at it as, when this is over, what do we do then? And that question during the war, think of what you would do for your country, not what your country can do for you. So so it's about now being able to step back and say, okay, this is a time for reflection. It's a time to think differently and to say, in the end, when all this is over, what would I do differently? What can I do differently? What are the things that I've learned over this period that can help me going forward? So I think for me, that's what really has helped me to stay mentally and emotionally astute.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that I've not had down days. There have been days where I've stayed in bed and I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But I think also, if you've ever struggled in your life and you've come out the other side, you almost realize that there is nothing you can't overcome if you keep your head above water.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at this very much as, okay, it will end. What are the new ways in which we need to work? So it's about now follow the trends. Look at what is happening in the industry. Online learning has been with us for so long. Distance learning has been with us since the 19th century. And yet we still very much into the face-to-face, physical contact. And actually this is saying, move to a different platform and blend it where you can. And so over this COVID period, we've actually been running some free courses for people in our network. And these are some of our accredited courses. We've been running them, and we've said to them, if you want the certificate of competence, we can talk about you submitting a portfolio after, but at least just learning new things. So for us, it's really about, don't give into the problem, but rather think beyond the problem and say, what can you do differently? What you have in your hand now, what can you do with it? So it's almost a bit of the coaching perspective as well, because with coaching, it's always about, what do you currently have in your hand that you can use? And that's how I'm looking at it.
So Charles, I think generally speaking, where there's a problem, where there are problems, there are always two sides to it. Where you have reached a certain perspective of life, you might think that you've achieved and you've gotten where you want to get to, and it's somebody else's dream. It might come with its own challenges that the person who is admiring you and looking up at you might not necessarily be experiencing. Challenge presents itself with certain development of a toughness. I'm going to take it from the perspective of a lot of the third world countries, in particular the countries in Africa. In Europe and the States, whenever there's a slight turbulence in the economy, people tend to trip over, they fail, are shouting, and there may be a little trip, a little inflection. Whereas I think the time I left, I also grew up in Nigeria. So the time I left Nigeria, 84, things were bad. And I remember being a student and lining up, trying to get sugar, like that. And I always said that it could never get worse. I went to the UK And I used to engage other Nigerians that used to come over, and the situation seemed to continuously get worse, but they seem to be managing within that turbulence. So somehow they seem to be like rubber balls. And a lot of the economies and the people from the third world countries tend to absorb some of these challenges and look more at how they're going to come out of it than collapse with the problem.
Yeah.
And a lot of creativity comes out of that. So we've taken some lessons from that to say it may be an element of pressure that we're experiencing now, but we're bouncing back up. What do we need to do?
Yeah.
Begin to move from under the wave to riding the wave.
Yeah. I think that's, thanks to know. I think it's really good advice. You know, you don't sound like a scientist at the moment, but I think it's really good advice. I just jotted down what yourself and Millie said, a couple of keywords. I love what the two of you are saying about this mindset. And as the two of you both recounting your COVID-19 experiences, I'm reminded of the work of Stephen Covey. You'll recall he talks about the circle of influence and the circle of concern. And there's certain things that we can influence. And I think that's what we need to focus on. Like you said, Dana, let's rather be part of the solution and not part of the problem. We need to become innovative solutions architect. We need to reframe, Millie, or redefine the problem. This is a challenge. A lot of introspection, a lot of reflection is required. A lot of self-belief, resilience, Dana, I think you said that. And just, you know, just being persistent. Like you said, Millie, this wave of change will go over, and I think the market is already shifting. That's what I've seen, and I think the market will reset to what I believe a blended learning operating model, and we will continue to do face-to-face with those restrictions, but also we'll continue to use online learning because I think that's proven to be very economic, very efficient, and a very effective solution. Surprisingly effective. I've logged probably over 300 hours of online learning the last 4 months, and I must say that I was remarkably surprised about how effective it is as a learning delivery platform. So I think we're all learning from this experience, and I think we need to take that going forward. And I think that's a message of hope that I'm hearing from the two of you. Message of inspiration, and I think this is what we need to share, the good news right throughout the industry.
Definitely.
Totally agree.
All right, Millie, I believe you're gonna just talk us through the company profile. So if you could just give us a quick overview, I'll put up the slides. Millie, if I could just give you about 2 to 3 minutes, if you could just run through the company service offering, Whitehall, the corporate profile. I think we can start there. We said company registered in 2011. And I'm going to hand over to you very shortly in terms of the vision and the various service offerings over and above skills development training. I know you spoke about business mentoring and coaching, the business incubation, acceleration. So, ma'am, the floor is yours. If I could give you 3 to 4 minutes just to talk us through what Whitehall Trading and Projects currently offers.
Okay, perfect. So for me, the vision is really the critical starting point. And as you can see, we've said to impact the mental, physical, intellectual, and economic well-being of the people of South Africa. Now, so we look at people holistically. So whether we're training, whether we're coaching, whether we're advising, it's a case of what is the desired result? What is it that people actually need to get out of this? So if you're doing a course, are you doing it just to enhance your intellectual welfare, or is it so that you can create an income out of it, and so on? So for us, it's also very much a kingdom perspective. If somebody asks us what is the purpose of our business, the purpose of our business is to glorify God in whichever way possible. So that's why the vision is set like that. Now, we are accredited by Services CETA and MICT CETA. The programs, again, that we've selected, you'll see contact center and business process outsourcing, new venture creation, which is entrepreneurship. And the entrepreneurship part is really for people either who are in business already or who are looking to start their own business. So again, we're combining our coaching and mentoring knowledge in impacting on the training and development side. We also, provide the end user computing, and I think now with COVID, it's even become more critical that everybody is au fait with, IT, the basics. There are people who are slightly scared of using, the technology, and that's because they're not comfortable around it. I think with a bit more knowledge, they're going to be okay, and we're poised for that. Then we've got the coaching and mentoring. You can see the business coaching. That's very much to know, interestingly. I think he likes the structure of business coaching. The results-driven side speaks to his science orientation. But for me, the life coaching is where I'm very much, a critical player, because the whole thing of, your journey, where you want to go, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, that component for me is where I'm very passionate. And so I work in that arena quite a lot, and I do a lot of life coaching. The entrepreneurship coaching is very much for those who are almost just starting. And then, of course, succession development. Maybe it is not as critical now, but certainly when we first came to South Africa, it was quite a critical component from the perspective of, in fact, a few days ago, I was reading that a lot of people with money and who are well educated as well are leaving the country, which means even when this COVID is over, we're probably going to have to look at how we reskill people and mentor people for certain positions. So for us, the succession development is quite a critical component from that perspective. And of course, if people want to run their own coaching or mentoring programs internally in their companies, that is one of the things that I actually used to do with Dr. Denise Bjorkman, where we would design a mentoring program for a company and help them with the first implementation and then take it from there. So you can see that all the programs that we have really align with everything we're about. Can the training lead people to become economically self-sufficient? Can they self-actualize with what we're doing? And of course, tying it in with the business acceleration. This is really from my experience of working for the incubator, but also I've always believed in the whole thing of making sure that entrepreneurs can access every aspect of the ecosystem within business in one place. So our business acceleration is really about helping organizations or businesses to access, whether it's information, library, books, etc., in that scenario. And so again, we can help companies to establish their own incubation programs, or we can run an incubation program for them. And it really just depends on what their needs are. That's where you're going to find us. We are in Sandton, well, Morningside actually. It's Morningside, but everybody calls every place around that area Sandton. So, even when we say Morningside, somebody will say, oh, you mean Sandton? It's Morningside, opposite the clinic, and that's where you'll find us. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Millie.
That's us in a nutshell.
Yeah, so I'll put up the, as we conclude talking to the Titans of Training, as we conclude the discussion, I'll put up that final slide again with the contact details, the email address, also your website address. So if there's any interested learners or mentees or coaches who would like to collaborate with Whitehall Trading Projects, I think please reach out to Nao and Millie. They are good for the industry, and they've been faithful and dedicated servants of the industry, as we know, for over 20 years. So I think we need to support our local training providers, especially where they have the reputation and the credentials like your company. So we've got two questions left, and maybe the one is a bit of a personal question. So the two of you are life and business partners. So is this something that you would advise for aspirant people that would like to break into the training industry, either as a trainer or maybe as a mentor or coach, or even start out a training company, become an accredited training provider? What works for the two of you that you can somehow balance, you know, your personal, your marital, but also your business lives? Any advice, business or personal advice, that you could share with us in that regard?
So, all right. I think if you're starting out, as much as possible, don't both jump into the business at the same time.
Yes.
I think there should be one that is bringing in the bacon, while the other one is possibly starting the business and getting it off the ground. The reason I also feel that we go into business is because of the limitation of employment. When you're employed, there's always a limit to how far you can go. There's always a limit to how much you can earn. And there's always a limit to what you can do and what you can implement for your own passion and your own purpose.
Yeah.
So, but when you do start the business, you have to acknowledge and recognize that there has to be a single head of the company. And you need to be able to respect that particular person in that capacity. Even if you want to choose to be head of the family, when it comes to the business, if that person is the head of the business, then they are the head of the business. And so you have to respect that. And like that, what else?
So thanks for that. So indeed,
Can I just respond to that before you go, Millie?
Yes, please.
Because I wrote this down. I thought this was quite insightful. Dana, what I'm hearing is then you have to be able to strike the balance between authority and autonomy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Please proceed, Millie. I interrupted you.
No, it's fine.
I just had to say that before I forget about it.
I think if a husband and wife or life partners ever decide to go into business together, first and foremost, they need to really do an assessment of what their relationship is from the beginning. Janelle and I have always been best friends. And as husband and wife, we are really good friends. We laugh together, but we also really respect each other. I mean, I respect his knowledge phenomenally. He is, you know, I'm such a talkative that in the past there have been situations where people will say, Millie's the brains of the company, and I say, actually not at all. You know, he's a powerhouse. He is so knowledgeable, but it's just that he gives me the platform to be myself, and he never tries to clip my wings or anything like that. So he's always championed everything I've ever done ever since we've been together. And so working together, I can't even see it as, oh, there's a transition or there's a difference. It's just a seamless part of our relationship. And you know, as he said, he is the one who is project orientated. He's very methodical. I am very much into, you know, the excitement and the rah-rah and so on. So again, we complement each other from that perspective. But you really have to evaluate the quality of your relationship from the beginning. Are you willing, for example, I'm the head of the company from on paper, and their clients are concerned, but that doesn't mean I lord it over him and say, you know, you will do as I say kind of scenario. So if I've had situations where people have said, no, I will be the head of the company because I'm the man. And I said, no, this is business. This is not your marital home, where he is still the head of my household. Dana is the head of my household. I respect him for that. In business, I'm the head of the company, but we complement each other because there's respect. He respects my knowledge, he respects where I'm coming from, and There are times he's incredibly overcautious, and I may be like saying, no, I'm not going to do it. But then I'll step back and I'll think, okay, let's look at the wisdom of what he's saying, and that's how we work together. So it's really about the quality of your relationship even before you start the business. If already there is the thing of you're not quite well aligned, if you do your thing, he does his thing, then it becomes a problem in business. But basically, it's never been a problem for us. Since 2000, we've worked together. It's been maybe 2 or 3 years out of those 20 that we both worked for other companies. Generally, about 16 years of that, we've actually worked together.
It's a remarkable success story, and thank you for sharing that with us. What I jotted down here was, again, Millie, just striking that balance between spontaneity and structure. I think you provide the spontaneity, Dineo, moderates that with a structure, and that scientific mindset, but also then just balancing and blending intuition with intelligence. I think, sometimes you have to be conservative. Other times you have to be, more ambitious, more radical with your business strategies and your business model, etc. So I think, like I said earlier, I think for me, it's quite remarkable how the two of you complement one another, not just at a personal, but also at a professional level. So my parting question then, Dineo, Millie, is you work a lot with training companies, other training companies, a lot of collaborations. You work a lot with trainers. So what general advice would you give to people, maybe trainers like myself, that would like to collaborate and partner with Whitehall Trading Projects? What sort of competency profile are you looking for? If I would like to volunteer to be a business mentor or business coach, to work in incubation or to work in acceleration, offerings in your business model, what sort of profile are you looking for, and what advice would you share with the industry in general to be successful? The two of you have, got this career longevity, 20 years in the industry. So what are the critical success factors? What would you share if we would like to work with you, but also in general, what would you say are the critical success factors?
Okay. So we thought about this question quite a bit.
Okay.
And for us, we work with people, and we believe first and foremost being transparent. Transparency for us is critical. We don't like people who try to cut corners and basically anything that is not. So this is where our kingdom perspective also has an impact on how we do business. There are times where people say, well, do not yoke yourself with unbelievers. That is a lot of Christians use that. But we see it very much about values. It's your values. So one, are you a person of integrity? In other words, can we rely on your word? If you say you're going to do something, there are times where we've gone into partnerships with people, we've actually done more work than they have, and they've made more money than us. But once you start that journey, you say, well, I've got to finish this. I can't leave it because, oh, you've cheated me or whatever. And so for us, it's the thing of be transparent, be passionate, have a sense of commitment, and know when to walk away. If something is not working, don't keep pushing at something that you know is actually going nowhere. You need to know when to walk away, but walk away clean, because we believe never ever close a door. Even where a business relationship has not gone perfectly, we still don't close doors, because there are reasons why things don't work out. And if you close a door really badly, you can never re-enter. So for us, it's those things. Be transparent, be committed, work with people who are of similar values to you, and also just be a person of integrity.
I think added to that is, you know, strive for excellence. So that means even as you enter into a field or into the space of training, you continuously look at your processes and say, how can we improve?
Yeah.
You try to also measure the outcome, the results. So you're not just training for the sake of training, but you're training because you want the person to be able to apply that knowledge and you want to see the results to say, oh, this person did this, and this is where they were. We have seen it with the staff we have, with learners. We've seen it with people that we have coached. So it might be years later we can say, oh, this person was one of those I coached, and he's now the senior manager or a managing director of one of the big companies, or this is how they have grown. Then you feel that you have been part of the development of that individual, the development of the country as a whole.
Yeah, yeah, it's part of your professional legacy. I think that's very important. I'd like to say I share some of these values: transparency, integrity, like you said, Danae, this commitment to excellence, the impact and the value of our training programs. I think that's very important. And Millie, I love what you said about, you know, the passion, the commitment. These are very important values. So principle-centered commitment to excellence. I think that would be my summary of that. And I think it's excellent advice. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. For me as a final thing, you know, there are so many situations where things may not work out perfectly as we expect them to. But it's really about being able to also go back to someone and saying, I'm sorry that this didn't work this way. Also, if you owe somebody in the skills development scenario, for example, since the COVID, we know that people have lost income, and they may have even owed maybe a printing company money, and they've not been able to pay it. So go back to those people. I mean, we owed one of the printing companies a bit of money, it's not a lot, and I contacted the gentleman. I said, you probably think we've forgotten about you. We haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
We're starting, and I just want you to know that before the end of this year, we'll be able to pay you back what we owe. Yeah. And I think he was really surprised because he wasn't expecting it. And we realized
you'd probably written off the money.
Yes, but you know, for us, I think, you know, we really are striving to do business in a different way. It's not always easy, but that is how we are trying to do things. So for us, it really is important. If other people have the same mindset, it's not about walking away, it's also about conversation.
Yeah. The narrative is very important. And I agree with you. And one thing that I've learned also, you know, my tenure in the industry is 20 years, similar to yourselves. This is a very small industry. So like you correctly said, Millie, don't burn your bridges, because your next contract, your next training gig, the person that you stabbed in the back, they turn out to be the decision maker. You know, Murphy's Law. So,
indeed.
So yeah,
indeed. You know,
nurturing.
I was reading that. I was reading that there are over 20. There are thousands of training providers out there, yet the industry is still very small because
it's incredibly small. Yeah, it's incredible.
So you're right.
And word gets around in the industry, you know, this company is unreliable, or don't trust Millie or Danae. And you know, your reputation, you can't put a price tag on the value of your reputation. That is the number one driver of your professional brand equity. So I think it's very important, and I want to agree that I do share a similar value system. Millie, Danae, I don't know who's going to close out. I'm just going to put up the slide with the contact details. So if you could just remind us of the contact details, how do we get hold of Whitehall Trading Projects for any kind of business collaboration, and any final and parting words that you would like to share with the industry and the viewers of talking to the Titans of Training?
Okay, our numbers up there, which you can see 081-330-4192, and our email is info@whitehalltrading.com. We've got a website, www.whitehalltrading.com. Look, in terms of the country, in terms of the COVID challenge, in terms of the challenges that we are going through, not just as ourselves in this specific industry, but all industry, it is a rough little wave. I say a little wave. Okay, it might
It's
cover
like a
everybody.
tsunami wave. Yeah, that's that.
Yes.
That's how small it is.
But I think it's little because of the time factor.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, when people go through war, the effect of that is normally over years.
Yeah.
We are going through a challenge which we are beginning to come out of, and we need to push through that wave and not look back at the problems that might have been caused. Just keep looking forward and how we possibly re-engineer or redevelop ourselves to be able to remain afloat and also to be able to grow.
Yeah.
They say what challenges may last for a night, but the joy will come in the morning, and our joy is just ahead of us.
Yes.
Yeah. No, thanks. No, very powerful, inspirational message. Yeah, I think reskilling, this is what we need to do in the industry, reinvent ourselves, re-engineer, do whatever is required. This will pass. Like I said earlier on, the industry is shifting. I think that sense of normality will return, I think, early in the new year, 2021. International travel, the borders have already reopened for business travel. So I think there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. I'd just like to say thank you to the two of you for your time, the generosity of your sharing, your willingness to share your journey and to contribute. I certainly learned a lot. I've taken 2 pages of notes. You can see 2 pages of notes that I'll be reviewing later on this evening, just to internalize this very powerful message that both of you shared. I just want to salute both of you and compliment both of you. You are indeed, sir, ma'am, titans of training, and I want to wish you the best of luck as we continue this professional quest towards excellence in the learning and development industry in South Africa and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles.
And thank you for having us and inviting us.
Yeah, and I think this is an
pleasure.
amazing thing you're doing, because we really don't celebrate the brilliance that is out there enough. So thank you.
No, it's a great pleasure. And I'm hopeful that the two will become supporters of talking to the Titans of Training and watch future episodes. And please, if you have any nominations, people in your inner business circle that you feel are worthy of sharing this kind of same platform, then please send me those details. I'll gladly set it up and hopefully we can learn as much from them as what we did from the two of you this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy Johannesburg, and hopefully we can close this nightmare of a year 2020. We can close it out and highlight reel in October, November. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Keep well.
You too.
From my side, this is Charles Cotter. I'd like to sign out. Just a quick reminder of my 5 pillars of training subject matter expertise. I specialize in face-to-face, but also online learning. Like I said, I'm a blended learning practitioner. My area of expertise, strategic human resources management, strategic learning and development, management and leadership development, power skills or soft skills as often referred to, and also business communication skills. I've also shared my contact details with you. So similar to Dano and Millie from Whitehall Trading, giving you my mobile number, my email address. Please, like I said earlier on, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video if you enjoyed it and found it quite insightful. You'll also find me very active on the other social media platforms, LinkedIn. I also have a company page. I'm on Twitter, also Facebook, my company page. Please like and share that. And my portfolio of slideshow presentations you'll find on SlideShare. So this is Charles Cotter signing out. Thank you for tuning in to Talking to the Titans of Training, episode 8. I've got quite a few interesting guests lined up. We're going to be doing this on a monthly basis. As you know, the workload seems to dissipate throughout the year, we might find that we could squeeze in another 2 or 3 episodes before the end of the financial year. Thank you. It's been a great pleasure, and you keep well.